China is looking to expand. But things like human rights and freedom, they're not really in the agenda. Nah, not on the agenda. It's looking to expand its empire and the tentacles that leave behind devastated countries drowning in unpayable debts, only to keep that influence strong. That's the real agenda of its government. It has been and will be for centuries, and they are not even hiding it anymore. On August 28, 2023, China decided to stir the pot big time by releasing a map. This wasn't just any old map, it was like they'd crafted a masterpiece in the art of ticking off their neighbors. Imagine this map as a puzzle where China fits in pieces around its backyard. The only difference is that they are the biggest players on the board. They own a lot of pieces and set the rules. Third world countries owe a huge amount of money to China. These countries are in debt to China for more than $140 billion. This debt is like a big weight on their shoulders, making it hard for them to stand up against China's influence. Now, China is used to giving massive debt as part of their "let's be friends" policies. So, third world countries are in quite a pickle with China regarding debt. They owe China a whopping $1.1 trillion. This huge amount has come about mainly because of China's big push to fund infrastructure projects in these countries. This initiative, called the Belt and Road Initiative, has been China's way of global expansion. They've been funding things like roads, airports, railways, and power plants everywhere, from Latin America to Southeast Asia. It's kind of like China has been playing Santa Claus, but instead of toys, they're handing out loans for big construction projects. Now, why can China do this? Well, it's a mix of a few things. First off, China has a massive population of over 1 billion people. This gives them a big workforce and a bigger market. Then there's their military power, which is one of the strongest globally. In 2023, they have more than 500 nuclear bombs and lots of new missiles. They've got the biggest navy in the world with over 370 ships. The truth is that many of these loans were given with a grace period, meaning countries didn't have to start paying back right away. However, as these grace periods are ending and the world is facing economic challenges like high interest rates and slowing global growth, these debts are becoming a real headache for the borrowing countries. China is moving from becoming the world's largest official creditor to the biggest official debt collector. They're also focusing more on emergency rescue loans, kind of stepping in as an international crisis manager for countries struggling to pay their debts. This means they're giving out loans to help these countries stay afloat, but it's also about protecting their own banks. In terms of global debt, China isn't just a big player in lending to developing countries. They also hold significant chunks of debt from some of the world's largest economies. Like the USA's of early 2023, China had around $859 billion of US debt, making them one of the top foreign holders of US debt. What's the big deal with Kashmir? First stop, Kashmir. This place is a hotbed of tension between India and Pakistan, but China's map boldly claims a huge chunk of it. India, however, begs to differ. This area is like a powder keg, with both countries beefing up their presence. Roads, towers, airfields, you name it, preparing for the worst. There's this line, the line of actual control, which is basically a fancy way of saying, we kind of think the border is here. Remember, we're in the Himalayas, where drawing lines is easier said than done. Both India and China are dead set on marking their turf, even in these unforgiving mountains. And since they're both nuclear powers, they've agreed to a no-gun policy. So when tensions boil over, it's like stepping back in time to medieval warfare, with soldiers duking it out with clubs wrapped in barbed wire. The last major clash in 2020 near Ladakh was brutal, with casualties on both sides. What's happening between China, Nepal, and Bhutan? About a year back, Nepal found out China was building some things in their Humla district without asking first. Turns out, China put up 11 buildings there. Nepal's border with China is super long. stretching over about 894 miles, and it's tough to manage because the area is really rugged. This border is supposed to be marked by pillars according to a treaty from 1961, but they're not always easy to spot. Lately, a report from the Nepali government pointed out some trouble with border pillars, specifically from numbers 4 to 13, hinting that China might be stepping over the line. This is causing a bit of a headache for the locals because they depend on trade with Tibet and don't want any trouble. Moving east, we hit another Himalayan country, Bhutan. The border here is a wild, glacier-packed divide. Back in 2006, China, playing it cool, nudged Bhutan to hand over a chunk of mountain land. Bhutan didn't have much of a say in this. While they're not shouting about it, China's making it clear they're calling the shots in this piece of Bhutan now. They're pulling the same stunt across other parts of Bhutan, slowly smudging the northern border. In 2020, they laid claim to a forested sanctuary in Bhutan, though their map oddly doesn't show it yet. Maybe next year, right? The real game changer is this narrow strip of land, the Doklam Plateau, a prime spot for China to keep an eye on India. Satellite snaps show China's busy building roads and structures there, playing a high-stakes game with India using Bhutan as their board. Why is China interested in Arunachal Pradesh and Myanmar? Jumping to Arunachal Pradesh, China's map boldly claims it all, dubbing it South Tibet. But hey, it's Indian territory, bustling with Indian folks. The border here is a relic from a 1913 British Tibet agreement, which China brushes off as invalid. They're even renaming places in the region, from mountains to rivers, like they're sticking a flag in every corner. India isn't just watching. They're pumping $500 million into building roads and villages, stamping their foot down on their claim. We have the China-Myanmar border, where China's building a fence, much to everyone's annoyance. This border used to be a friendly neighborhood with people chatting and trading across it. But now, this fence is a game changer, stirring up quite a bit of anger. It's not a land dispute, but it's another piece of the puzzle, showing how China's tightening its grip. China's government map comes off as deceivingly straightforward. They've drawn a dashed line in the South China Sea and basically said, everything inside here? Yeah, that's ours. But hold up, it's not that simple. This line, known as the 9-dash line, was pretty much scribbled by Chinese officials in the 1940s without a second thought for precision or legality. It's like they took a marker and went wild on the map, ignoring the fact that these waters are legally recognized as belonging to their neighboring countries. Talk about stepping on toes, right? What's up with China in the South China Sea and Senkaku Islands? Moving north, we've got the Senkaku Islands drama, where China, Japan, and Taiwan are all locked in a tug-of-war over another set of islands surrounded by lucrative oil and gas fields. China's approach? Send in the Coast Guard to flex their muscles in the area, making it crystal clear they believe these islands are theirs, both on paper and in reality. And then there's the Taiwan issue. Despite Taiwan's long-standing independence, China's map boldly claims Taiwan as part of its territory. China's message is loud and clear. They're ready to reclaim Taiwan, even if it means using force. The latest twist: they've added a cheeky 10th dash to their infamous 9-dash line, now encircling waters east of Taiwan. This subtle addition reveals China's deep-rooted sense of historical entitlement to the region. Japan has been saying these islands are theirs since way back in 1895, after a war with China. But China and Taiwan are like, nope, they're ours. So you can imagine, this has been causing quite a stir for a long time. Recently, things got a bit more tense. China sent 2 of their Coast Guard ships near the islands, right into an area that Japan considers pretty much part of their backyard. There was even a Russian ship hanging around too. Japan wasn't happy about this and let China know they weren't cool with it. But technically, these ships didn't cross into what's officially Japan's water territory. As for China's reaction to Japan making some admin changes to the area, like renaming a district to include Senkaku, It's been surprisingly chill compared to how they've acted before. This might be part of a bigger plan, especially with how China's been acting in other sea disputes. So hit like, subscribe, and tell us, what's your take on this bold move by China? Do you think it's a strategic masterstroke or a risky gamble?